Hey, listen, and welcome to A Link to the Filmcast. I'm your host, David Reese, in the show where we adventure across the realms of Hyrule and the silver screen. And today we're going to be looking at good old Morbius, the nice meme movie of the COVID pandemic. This really is, I was thinking about it the other day, a great opportunity to have all your Zelda content, have a bunch of Zelda content in line with just a bunch of action adventure movies, fantasy movies, some animated flicks. If you're into movies like I am, and you're a big Zelda fan, because then you can be checking out different news articles Zelda related, which we'll talk about here in a bit. And you can be checking out movies and exploring what else there is out there kind of adjacent to this genre. But today we'll start, today's the Uten Marsh episode. This is the random Zelda page that we go through every week or every episode. Not every week. I don't post these that often, which I'll talk about. But Uten Marsh is the place in Breath of the Wild. It's a location where the blue Hinox is if you're doing the three giant brothers. There's three different areas with three Hinoxes, and the middle brother sleeps at this Uten Marsh location. Now, going into this, I thought we'd be getting like a bunch of Korok seeds as I'm looking at all these random Zelda wiki pages. But fortunately, each Korok seed doesn't have its own page. And what we've been getting a lot is location names, which is kind of nice because it makes you bring back memories of what you've done there. Like, it's got it's a marsh, so you can see Link walking up with water up his leg, but he's not swimming. Kind of unique. But yes, let's talk about what I kind of alluded to. We don't do these every week. I try to do them every 2 weeks, but life happens. For those of you that wait to download these as they come out, which is actually quite a few already. I put myself in that amateur tier. This is just a little side thing I'm doing. I have a day job. I have other things that life gets in the way. And I had to watch Morbius of all the things. It's not the worst movie, but we'll talk about it. There's been a fair amount of Zelda news lately. There's been a rumor of a Zelda casting for the upcoming Zelda movie. Apparently, it's an actor from Euphoria named Hunter Schafer. Never heard of them. I saw some pictures associated with the rumors. Haven't done my fair share of research yet. Don't know what they're all about. I did see that they delayed the release date for the Zelda movie. Instead of March 2027, it's going to be May 2027. Knowing Nintendo and Hollywood, they're going to be delaying it a couple times. At this point, I'm just going to brace myself for 2028. Just like how we were supposed to have Tears of the Kingdom almost like 6 months before we actually got it. Which is fine. Let them cook. Let them do their thing. Let them cook. They want to release a finished game. I know they don't treat all of their franchises like that, but they want to put out a game that they're proud of and people will remember. Not release a bombshell and let people meme it to death and just taint the Nintendo or the Zelda image. So we'll let them work on it. The Nintendo Switch 2 has been released since the last episode. Personally, I didn't get it. I'm not feeling any FOMO at this point, except for maybe like the Zelda Diaries for Breath of the Wild, or just that 60 frames per second Breath of the Wild experience. I do think that would be cool. I don't want to YouTube it. It's not the same. Down the road, when I get it for whatever the next mainline Zelda game is, I'll probably also get the Breath of the Wild upgrade as well and relive that experience in anticipation for the next Zelda game whenever it's announced. So I'll get it, the Nintendo Switch 2, just not right away. I mean, it's only been out a week and a half at this point, so it's still new. Mario Kart's fun, but I don't feel like I need to play Mario Kart World on day one. 450 is pretty steep right now. Everyone's in different circumstances in life, and sometimes you just kind of have to make choices. I mean, I got a PS5, so that's been keeping me busy, and the Switch. So it's not like I'm deprived of games. The Switch 2 is going to be down the road, but for now, we'll keep it fine. And we'll just jump into our movie Morbius. It's Morbin time, the one, the only, the one that became a meme due to how bad it was. This is following our movie series, following the trail of producer Avi Arad, who is attached as a producer for the Legend of Zelda movie. I don't know if he has a producer credit here for Morbius. Let me look. Yep. Avi Arad is credited as a producer on Morbius. He also co-produced the film with Matt Tolmach and Lucas Foster. And it is listed as the Avi Arad Productions as the production company for the movie. So had a hand to play in it, and that's why we're following the series of Sony Marvel movies in the lead up to the Legend of Zelda movie. Kind of get an insight. We've already followed the director Wes Ball. Check out some of our Maze Runners and Planet of the Apes episodes. Now we're checking out the producer. We'll probably watch some fun movies in between, and we'll figure out what other movies we want to watch in preparation for the Zelda movie. We got plenty of time. We'll probably watch some action, some adventure, some fantasy movies. Oddly enough, there was that straight up movie Legend that we covered, and looking back on it, that has so much potential, and that could have been like a Zelda movie from the 80s, but it wasn't. It made choices and had a different tone associated with it. We're not talking about Legend, we're talking about Morbius. This is the movie where there's a line in it. You wouldn't like it when I'm hungry, which is in reference to the Hulk line in Avengers. You wouldn't like it when I'm angry. So then people started making the other Hulk quotes into Morbius jokes. Like instead of it's clobbering time, it's Morbin time, and so on. And the memes created such craze about it that some theaters actually brought the movie back into theaters after it was released, which did not amount to anything. It didn't drive any numbers, lots of empty theaters, and people just going to the theaters to take a selfie with the poster and leaving. Jared Leto, I personally don't know too much about him. I think the only other Jared Leto, I don't really know him too much. I do know off the top of my head that he was the Joker in the bad version of the Suicide Squad, the one they kind of don't acknowledge exists anymore. And as an actor, I don't know how much leeway he had with the production of this film. I know people didn't like his Joker interpretation in Suicide Squad, but I don't know how much of that was him or the director and the producers. But why does this movie get the hate? Well, I watched it, and it was rubbish right away. There's the kids, Lucian and Michael. Michael becomes Milo. And we're led to believe that Dr. Morbius is a genius, even as a kid. Blood medicine machine malfunctioned, and he was able to hack it to get it back to work. So it starts with him getting like the Nobel Prize. And honestly, I don't want to go through this movie beat for beat. I'm not gonna. I took notes down, but as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, what can we talk about? There's so many medical inaccuracies that I had to Google to double check, make sure I wasn't crazy. He's got this little patient, Anna, and the quote is, "We have to induce a coma to prevent a stroke," which is not a thing, as Google and different medical websites talked about. Which makes, and why would you induce a coma on a person knowingly? Because I don't think there's any tried and true ways to always wake someone up from a coma. And even then you would have to like ventilate them because they can't breathe on their own. There's different things. I was surprised by Matt Smith. I wasn't expecting him in this movie. I know he was a Doctor Who, but I know him from House of the Dragon as a Targaryen. So it was kind of fun to see him in the movie. That was kind of fun. A fun change of pace I wasn't expecting, or a fun, familiar face. They did the same thing, the Marvel formula that I'm kind of getting tired of, in a sense where we have our good guy that has some sort of power and he uses it for good. And then our villain has the exact same power but is selfish and uses it for bad. They did several Iron Man movies that way, and that's just still on my mind. Not just if you've been listening to this for a while. I like interesting villains. I like villains that aren't your traditionals. And they're becoming, you don't see them as often because they're hard to do, which is why Star Wars did the thing in episode 9 that we don't really talk about. Somehow somebody returns. I'll leave it at that. And I could see the other argument, like, hey, you try to write a better villain. You try to write a bad guy that's convincing. And to that I say, maybe I won't. I'll think about it. I bet if I actually was like pushed to write an actually interesting story or develop a very good villain character and I could workshop it, I think I could. I know I'm talking big game here on a podcast to the void, but I think I could. What would my villain be? I don't know. It depends on the hero. It also depends on the setting, the environment. There's factors that play into it, weather, motivations. That's something we could talk about a different time. So, ever since he becomes the vampire, the whole movie's kind of a game of just chasing. He gets the FBI on his tail, and then he's got Milo or Matt Smith on his tail. It's just a big long chase movie. And the movie's not fun to look at either. I kind of like the text and the aesthetic that they were going for, but the scenes were just so black. It was like black on black canvas. It was hard to see. And there wasn't really much contrasting with the black either. It was black and lighting, just regular lighting. And it's like, the movie kind of looked gross. The Morbius, like the CGI vampire version of him, wasn't gross, or it was gross in the sense of it wasn't interesting. I know I mentioned the Anna girl with the whole coma to prevent a stroke, and I'm just realizing I don't think they ever played with that thread again in the movie. I do think it's kind of funny. At one point, he's trying to leave the hospital. He's got a hoodie on with a backpack while the FBI is looking for people. Nothing screams, look at me if you're looking for people, than if you're wearing a big hoodie with the hood up covering your face. There's several parts in this movie where kind of just left a bad feeling because they talk about how the bodies are drained of blood and oh no, there's like these two fang marks. What could it be? So then you're led to believe, oh, maybe vampires and that doesn't exist in this world version of Earth. But then mention later on in the movie, they talk about, oh, I almost went full Dracula on you. It's like, well, so vampires do exist. FBI detectives would know fang marks and blood. Well, yeah, we have a vampire on our hands. There's several parts where they didn't want to use the term vampire, really, even though it was blatantly like that's what he's going for. There's also the parts they try to shoehorn in other stuff in the Sony verse. There's an image of Spider-Man at one point for no reason. He says, I am Venom. The FBI detectives reference an incident in San Francisco. We get the Vulture in a post-credit scene. None of it flowed well. I don't know what it is about Marvel movies, or at least the ones that in the 2010s that I grew up with, that made it more interesting to have the crossover stuff, but wasn't like the highlight. Like Spider-Man No Way Home had some sentimental value. I feel like we should do all the Spider-Man movies too for this podcast. I know we're doing the Sony Marvel extended universe. Maybe we'll do a Spider run. There's been several runs I want to do. I want to do a Spider-Man run. I want to do a Star Wars run. Lord of the Rings will be a big series that I'll do. I'll probably do a big episode extravaganza, maybe multiple episodes per movie. I feel like if I did that, though, I would want a co-host. I'm not opposed to having a co-host for this program, especially if this picked up speed or momentum and I was able to find the right personality that would vibe. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I kind of like being on my own schedule, working on it when I can, and it does feel like rambling sometimes. Maybe it's good background music or background noise as I'm just rambling, talking about Morbi, Dr. Morbi. I get the hate for this movie, but it tries to make it like a modern day movie, but it's just sloppy. A lot of the fighting sequences, some of the dialogue, a lot of the dialogue is just, it feels lazy. It feels half baked. They didn't put the polish on it. They didn't go through it with critical eyes and think, should we actually put this out? That's something in my notes. Why didn't the people at Sony and Columbia catch that stuff during editing and think about how ridiculous it would be? That's actually what I put in my notes. So I'm going to try a new segment. We are on Rotten Tomatoes, and we are going to read some reviews. Rotten Tomatoes has given this a glorious 15% on the tomato meter, and the popcorn meter has 71%. Popcorn meter, formerly known as the audience meter, is more of a measure of entertainment value while you watch it rather than a critical review of the movie. That's the way Rotten Tomatoes has it set up, to my understanding, when I'm reading how they set up their ratings. So let's check out some ratings. We got one 3.5 stars. It's worth a watch. The story is fine. Characters were okay. And I mean, it's Morbin time. From Connor. I mean, not bad. Here's a good half-star review. Let Go plays a cult leader / vampire who battles disease by drinking blood and has to battle Milo, his best friend / arch enemy, in a CGI ribbon dance. About as good as a time as paying someone to slap your face every minute for 144 minutes. Half star. I sympathize with that. The way they did the action scene was like a CGI ribbon dance. That's a great way to bring it up. Here's one. 1 star. The only reason I don't hate this movie is because I saw it with my best friend. And to this day, we laugh about how bad it was. The story was bland. Morbius himself as a character just wasn't that interesting. And to top it off, the visuals were mediocre. It wasn't the worst theater experience I've ever had, but I can't recommend watching this movie. 1 star, which is a fair review. There's a few movies that are just so bad they're good. Sharknado has been one of those breakout hits. There's a French movie. I haven't seen this. It's called The Room or Room from like the 2000s. Apparently that's one of those other bad movies that are worth a watch just cuz. And the part that gets me when I'm getting this feedback, or I'm looking at this feedback, but then I look at the box office and this thing turned a profit. Looking at the box office, it says it has a budget of 75 mil and it brought in 167 mil. Where if you use the rule of thumb, if you do 2 times the budget, then you're profitable. We're looking at 2.2 times margin. So it did turn a slight profit, but given the reception, they're probably not doing a sequel, which is fine by me. It was worth it. I watched this thing twice because I watched it a couple weeks ago and then life happened and then I wanted to record this podcast, but it had been over 2 weeks since I saw it. So I watched it again last night so it would be more fresh in my mind for talking about it today when I'm recording. And I don't think I'll need to sit through it again. I think I'm good. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I really want to kind of start the next movie. I'll try to get the next episode out sooner than I did for this one. Still waiting on questions and submissions for discussion topics, questions about Zelda, movies, life, or whatever you want. And that's going to be it for this episode. If you like what you heard, tell a friend and leave us a review. That's the best way you can help grow the show. Send me feedback. I'm working on being more active on X at ZeldaFilmcast. And next time we'll be watching Madam Web. Thanks for listening. And as always, may the Triforce be with you.